Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the AAA Show. I'm your host, as always, Jared Down. Joining me this week is Travis Clayton, the head coach for the Sherwood Park Kings, the U18 AAA Alberta Elite Hockey League. So excited to have him on, talk his career and some coaching history with him, and we'll send it to Travis. Travis, how's it going today? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's going good. You know, it's warming up outside, so yeah, it's been awesome.
How's the team holding up with everything, with the whole COVID situation? I know it's been a frustrating year, but for those of us who aren't in Alberta, kind of give me an insight of everything you guys have gone through this season.
Yeah, it's been crazy. You know, we started off doing cohorts there at the beginning of the year, and then we got into playing some games. We ended up playing 6 games, and then they shut down the season for a little bit, and that was November 12th, and that was the last time we were on ice up until about 3 weeks ago. So it's been a long time for all the players in Alberta to get back on the ice. And once we got back, to do is skill stuff, but they're just happy to be on the ice again and doing what they love, right? And you can see the smiles on their face, and at the end of the day, that's all you want.
Yeah, throughout the whole situation, how do you guys as the coaching staff kind of just keep the player morale up? I know it's tough on them, and you guys don't have much to work with.
Yeah, it was tough. You know, like when they shut us down there November 12th, we kind of took a week kind of pause, like trying to figure out what we can do. And so we started doing the Zoom sessions and keeping guys engaged. We stayed away from the system stuff. We got a lot of guest speakers on from all over the area, down in the States. We had USHL coaches, North American coaches, a lot of universities down there. And also up here we had junior coaches speak. So it was really good, and the boys really enjoyed it, and you know, and got something out of it.
For your third year players who might not have had a contract anywhere yet or have rights owned, what was it like trying to keep them going, I guess, throughout this whole thing, and let them know there still will be opportunity after this?
Yeah, that was a tough part. You know, you feel for the 17-year-olds, you know, because, you know, they worked all their life to, you know, get a chance to play junior hockey. So, you know, mentally it was tough on them, and because they're worried, right? Because they want to play that next level, and they're thinking that they won't be able to. And you know, it was always up in Alberta, they're always saying, "Oh, in 2 weeks we'll review." So it was kind of keeping them kind of strung along, kind of hopes that they would get back playing. So it was easy that way. And now, you know, once we got back on the ice, they're working hard because they want to, you know, a lot of them don't have LOIs yet, and they're getting their invites to junior teams. So for the spring camp, so they know it's very important to be ready to go when these camps start up and showcase their talent.
Yeah. On our weekly segments, we have a commitment segment, and last week we kind of covered a couple players from your team that were lucky enough to sign with their Alberta Junior Hockey League teams, Matthew Langdon and Zach Maxwell. Just kind of give me insight of kind of what kind of players they are, and what Drayton Valley and Sherwood Park can look forward into and having them.
Yeah, we'll start with our captain, Zach Maxwell. He, you know, he got sent down late from the Crusaders, and from day one that he got sent back to us, he was the hardest working guy on our hockey team. He'd be the first one on the ice, last one to leave, always working on stuff. And I think that was the biggest thing. One of the reasons why he was able to have such a good start and be the leading scorer of the league was just his work ethic and commitment. And you know, hats off to him. You know, he deserved you know, the LOI from the Crusaders, and you know, he's going to be, you know, he can score goals. He can play in all situations. That's one thing he can do. And you know, he's got a bright future in junior hockey, and hopefully a scholarship will come of it.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
And with Matthew Langdon, he's a 16-year-old. He didn't put up a lot of points with us. He's just starting to get his feel for the AAA level, and he's got some unreal skill. He's got a quick release of a shot. He can score. He'll be able to score in junior hockey just with his quick release. And he's also a real good skater. He likes to drive the puck wide on D-man, and he's going to be a good junior hockey player too. And I look forward to seeing what these guys can do at the next level.
With the Alberta Junior Hockey League coming back, we've been seeing a fair bit of 04 born players getting the opportunity to go up there and play this season. Do you think, for the most part, a lot of these guys are just going to be a fill-in for the team this season and possibly back at the AAA level, or do you think there's a good opportunity that a lot of these 04s will remain with the big club next year?
I think if they've signed, I think the team's invested in them. They want to see what they can do, and I think it's a great opportunity for these younger kids, to get some AJHL action and get their feet wet, kind of thing, and see what it takes to be a junior hockey player. So I think it's an advantage for these kids to be able to go up there and play and get them ready for next year.
Awesome. Before we get further into your coaching career, I kind of want to dive into your playing career. You had quite the career. You started out in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League playing for North Battleford. Looking back at the SJHL days, it's kind of gave me a feel for what it was like for you.
Yeah, it was, that's a long time ago, but I remember going there as a 16-year-old, and, I was very, very lucky to have two real good coaches in Todd McClellan and Blaine Gustel. They were new at coaching, but they were unreal, and they got me prepared to have my 4 or 5 years of junior hockey. And I still remember, as a 16-year-old, I was probably only 150 pounds, and there were some big boys back then. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a great career in North Battleford. They treated me very well there, and I was able to move on and play a little bit of pro.
Yeah, you went on to Wichita, and you had a long, lengthy career with them. You were pretty steady in production. You averaged probably a point per game, and you went down as the second leading scorer in league history, obviously before it transitioned into the new format it is now. Take me through your days in Wichita and that whole entire league.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't know I'd end up in Wichita, Kansas, right? But yeah, it was like a second home. I went there and absolutely loved it there. They treated me well there, and I played with a lot of good line mates and teammates there to be able to put up the points, and so yeah, it was really good. My first year there, we went to the finals, and I ended up not going back to the finals until my last year pro. And but yeah, Wichita it's home. That's where my wife's from. Maybe someday we'll be back there. Who knows? But yeah, it was a great experience. The fans there were crazy. They absolutely loved their hockey. They loved the fighting down there. It was crazy. I didn't do much fighting, but they loved it. Right? That was it, and they treated you really well. Fans loved you, and then I played a little bit in the International League with Kansas City and Detroit Vipers, and then after my 11th year, I just I'm still playing, and I want a chance to win a championship, and Shreveport came available, and I jumped all over it. And those 3 years it was so much fun down there, and we were such a tight knit group. It was just something I'll never forget down in Shreveport. I didn't think I'd end up in Louisiana playing either, but it was the best time of my life playing down there. It was so much fun, and then I ended up winning a championship my last year.
Was winning that championship kind of the final straw? All right, I can move on from this.
Yeah, I think as a kid growing up, you always want to win something, either the Stanley Cup or whatever league. It doesn't matter, right? And that's what my goal is, to win a championship. And I was lucky to be on such a great team in Shreveport. And like I said, we're like a tight knit family, and I think that's one of the reasons why we won down there. Is all 20 guys, 24 guys were so close that we weren't going to let the next guy down kind of thing. And, and that's, I think, to win a championship, you need to be a tight-knit group, a family, and that's what I try to build my teams around now as a coach.
What were the emotions like when, the final seconds are ringing down in that last season of yours and you're finally getting you can see the trophy in the distance?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was in game 7. I still remember it. We were up 2-0 going into the third, and they scored a late goal, about a minute and a half left. And I'm like, oh man, like, you gotta be kidding me. They're going to end up coming back and tying this. But, we had great goaltending, and it was this unbelievable feeling. I don't even remember it really. I know my dad and had a lot of family there. My wife was all there. It was a pretty cool feeling to be able to hug my dad, and yeah, it was awesome. It's something you'll never forget.
For someone who's played such a long career down there, a lot of players who play that many years tend to stay down there. Was the plan kind of always to come back, or does the opportunity arise to come back up presented itself?
Yeah, no, we had a house in Wichita and all that. We were kind of thinking we'd probably end up staying down in Dallas, kind of thing. That's where my wife's sister and mom live, and we were thinking maybe setting up shop in Dallas. And we were down there for a year after I retired, and then a guy from Lloyd called me, Danny Haygarth, asked if I'd be interested in coming back and coaching the Bantam AAAs, I guess be under 15 AAAs now in Lloydminster. And he goes, we have a real good group of kids and would love for you to come up there. And, I wanted to get into coaching. I thought, well, why not, right? Well, so it's close to home, only a half hour, 45 minutes from my hometown. So I thought, why not go up there and take a crack at it? And it was absolutely a great choice because the kids were so good. Like it was like coaching like a midget team, really. They're bantam age kids, but they were so talented, and it was fun coaching them.
Yeah, before we dive into your coaching career, I'm going to take a quick minute to go to our sponsors. That's how we at ASTV get paid. So it's going to run a quick glimpse here for an advertisement. Welcome back to the AAA show here on ASTV. Travis Clayton here. Before the break, we were just starting to transition out of his playing days into his coaching career. Travis was coaching Bantam, right, with Lloyd, and then you eventually transitioned into the U18 level, I believe, right?
Yeah. Like when I first moved back, I did the under 15 triples, and like I said, we had quite the roster. It was a fun year to coach them. We ended up winning the Alberta League and then going on to Western Canadian championships, and we ended up in the final against a very good team from North Shore, and ended up losing in double overtime. But it was quite the ride there. And then they asked me to move on to the under 18 level, and kind of brought the same kind of group of boys up, and I was able to coach them for 2-3 years.
How was the transition into the U18 level? Did you find it any difference in having to adjust your coaching style?
You could add a little, the players are a little bit older, so you could start adding a few more things into your system. Like I said, I had a real good hockey team at the Bantam level, and then also at the midget level. Their hockey IQ was like through the roof. And after the Bantam days, that team, I believe I had like 9 kids drafted to the WHL, and so that's how much talent we had there. And I was able to take most of them up with me to the under 18, and the first year with the under 18, I think we finished second or something and lost in the North final. And I knew we were close if we could get most of the guys back for that second year of midget, and instead of going to the WHL, we'd have a chance to win Alberta again. And it all has to fall into place again, and it all worked out. Like, we were able to get like a Zane Franklin and Bryce Kindop back, and we had quite the hockey team in that last year of midget there in Lloyd, and it was just fun to play. Like, coach and not play, but it was like coaching a junior hockey team. Like, they were fun. You could throw anything at them and they just did it right. And we ended up winning, I think, Alberta that year, and then going to the TELUS Cup in New Brunswick.
What was your experience like in the TELUS Cup? Not a lot of coaches get to that point. It's one of the most prestigious honors in Canadian AAA. Just kind of take me through that tournament.
Yeah, it was like, wow, it was first class. Like, it was unbelievable. They just treated you like a professional out there. Like, we had a guide that would take us around to lunch and everything. He was always with us, and it was just an unbelievable feeling. It was just top notch. Like, well, Hockey Canada runs it, and they were all there, and we came up a little short in the semifinals. We lost to the eventual champion out of Ontario, but it was just quite the experience. Something I'll never forget, right? Like, and I'm sure the boys won't either. It was, coming from a small town, Lloydminster, it's not the biggest city, right? And to be able to go to a TELUS Cup, a national championship, was something special and something you'll never forget.
Yeah, your success with the AAA club didn't go unnoticed. You eventually transitioned into the Alberta Junior Hockey League in a brief stint with the Bobcats. What went into that decision, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was crazy summer. Like, so they hosted the RBC Cup that year as well. So, and they ended up losing in the final, I believe. And I was supposed to just I was hired on as an assistant coach under Gord Thibodeau to start with, and which was awesome, right? I think he's won the most games in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, so it was going to be a good stepping stone for me to learn under Gord and get my feet wet and get some experience that way. And it would have been the end of June. He ended up taking another job in Whitecourt, so then I was handed the head coaching job. So I was thrown in the fire, and it was late in the recruiting kind of thing, and I only had a month and a half to prepare for my first season. It was tough. We lost it. We only had one returning player from the RBC Cup, so it was a tough year. And but the boys worked hard for me. We ended up only winning like 15, 16 games, but we ended up getting our goalie Austin McGrath. He got a scholarship that year, so it was it wasn't all that bad, right? So, but the first year was tough, and then my second year it got a little bit better. We ended up finishing sixth in the North Division, and then my third year, just one of those things. We had lots of injuries at the beginning of the year. I lost my captain, lost my starting goalie, and we didn't have the depth. We're not like a lot of the Sherwood Parks or the Spruce Groves or Brooks, where if you lost maybe your first or second line player, you had other guys filling in. Well, we didn't have that in Lloyd. We didn't have the depth. Not yet. We were building towards it, but we didn't have that. So when you lose your starting goalie and your captain and a few other players, it's tough to win. And at the end of the day, it's about winning. And we didn't do that, and and ended up costing me my job.
As a head coach / GM in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, what would a typical offseason look like? It's not like the WHL, where a lot of the prospects that you draft necessarily come to you guys, right? So what would it look like for you guys?
It's tough, right? And especially being Lloyd, being away, you're not around Edmonton or Calgary kind of thing. So it's tough to recruit. It is. It's a tough place to recruit. You're on your phone all the time, watching videos of players. You got your scouts talking to them, going out to, you're on the road quite a bit watching games, right? And you don't get a draft in the AJHL like the SJHL. You don't have that. So the players are able to choose where they want to go. So it makes it even tougher, but you got to do your homework on kids and get out there and sell your program as much as you can. And hopefully you can get a few top end kids to start turning that program around. And so if you're not a top program in the AJHL, it makes it tough. It really does.
Yeah, I've noticed that you see that with a lot of junior teams, right? In the WHL and any of those small markets, players have a hard time, even when they're drafted, coming to say a Swift Current or a Moose Jaw or Prince George, something that's kind of out of the way, maybe a little smaller. So I can understand the difficulty. Before we get into your Sherwood Park days, I just want to quickly go back to another sponsor here. Welcome back to the AAA Show with Travis Clayton here. Just finished talking about his days in Lloydminster, coaching AAA and as well the junior Bobcats. After the Bobcats, you ended up in Sherwood Park where you are now, but with the U15 level. What was it like getting back to the AAA stages?
Yeah, it was tough. It was a big adjustment going from 17 to 20-year-olds going to 13, 14-year-olds, right? But they're a good bunch of kids. It was fun, got the enjoyment back in the game. There was no pressure about winning or losing. It's about developing kids, and we were able to develop kids, got them better, and it was a lot of fun. But obviously it was a challenge too, just on the communication going back to those 13 and 14-year-olds, right? So but yeah, it was a good first year, and then I was able to move up to the under 18s this year.
Moving up to the U18s this year, what was the recruiting process like with the whole COVID situation?
Yeah, like it's different in the Alberta League. You don't have to. You're in zones, so if you're in a certain zone, you can't go out and recruit. You gotta, you stay in that zone, and that's all you're allowed. Like in Sherwood Park, we're only allowed Sherwood Park kids, so that's all you could get, right? So it's not like the Saskatchewan Midget League where they can go out and recruit from wherever, right? So that's the difference. So it makes it a little bit easier as a coach. You got these kids, but you still have to reach out to them because there's the academies, right? The kids still have that opportunity to go there. So you still have to have a good program and show what you're going to do and keep the kids in Sherwood Park.
How do you find trying to sell your organization versus one of the hockey academies in the area?
Well, what we've done here the last couple of years, we don't want to be like the academy. We're offering kind of the same kind of stuff for a lesser price, right? We're able, we got some providers. We got a goalie provider. We have a power skating provider. We have a skills provider kind of thing. And then we have a mental coach. So we're able to give the kids the same kind of thing as what they would get at these academies for a lesser price, kind of, right? So that's our hope, is trying to keep the kids that way. And so that's what we've done here the last couple of years in Sherwood Park, and it's helped. We've been able to get kids to come back that left to go to the academies and come back to the Sherwood Park program.
Just going back to the whole recruiting in the zones, obviously Saskatchewan is a little more wide open, and Manitoba's in zones as well. How do you find the zone impacts the whole status of the league?
Well, I guess it's good that in a way, right? Because then everyone's on a level playing field kind of thing. Like if you have a real good program, you can't go into St. Albert and take their better players and bring them that way. So it keeps everyone pretty close and competition equal, and it makes for better hockey that way, right? Where if you're able to take the best kids out of Lloydminster and all over, right? All of a sudden, maybe Lloyd won't be as strong and they're getting blown out every game. So that's not good for the league either. So I think this way it helps. Obviously, it would be nice to be able to go out and recruit as well and get some of the top end guys and help your program. But at the end of the day, it's about developing your own local kids, and if you're able to do that, that's a bonus.
Just looking at your roster now, it looks like you have about 11 2003 borns, which means they'd be moving on after this season, and one of your 04s is signed. With what looks like a big roster overhaul coming, just kind of take me through how your offseason looks coming up and how you expect to counteract that kind of change.
Yeah, it'll be a big, overhaul, like it probably is all the time in under 18 level, right? And I guess you look at the under 16 triples. There's some very, very talented kids there, and also the midget double A's. They got a good program and there's some very, very talented kids there. So we'll be fine that way. We just recruit locally and keep developing local, and hopefully have a good product the following year.
Yeah, you mentioned the U16 AAA. That's something us here in Saskatchewan don't have. How do you think that having that league impacts the players' development?
I think it's huge. Just because, if they're 15 years old, and if you don't make that AAA level and then you got to go play AA, you're going to be going against some 17-year-olds, some bigger kids. I think it takes away from your development, where if you're not quite strong enough to play that under 18 AAA, you can go back and play the under 15 triples and play against the same guys your age and close to your size and weight. And I think it helps for confidence and touching the puck and playing in all different situations. I think it's huge. I think it's the right thing to do. And you've seen it in a lot of kids where they're able to go back and play that under 15 triple and play in all different situations. It just helps their development big time.
Yeah, I just recently started covering the league. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that we branched out to start covering Alberta and Manitoba, and the U16. I've noticed players who kind of went through that program statistically look like a better transition. And do you find players who kind of come to the AA route lack the confidence a little more than they would if they were through the U16?
Well, I guess it just depends too, right, on how your organization wants it. If it's all about development, you can still develop them doing just playing the under 18 doubles, right? But a lot of times, a lot of organization looks at the wins and losses. And as a coach, if you're coaching the under 18 doubles and it's about wins and losses, well, then maybe your 15-year-old might get lost down at the third line, fourth line, not playing all situations. So they won't develop. You got to build. You can't just practice to develop. You got to play games as well to develop. And if they're not playing, they're not going to develop. So it just depends what kind of your organization, what wins and losses matter.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I just kind of want to ask, throughout your playing career and everything, were there certain coaches that you kind of took little bits and pieces of their coaching style and implemented into your game? Yeah,
you always jot down or throw in the back of your memory. Obviously having Todd McClellan, he was so prepared. He had us every game. Even the first year, we didn't win that many games in North Battleford, but he had us so prepared. And then even as my 17-year-old. Just his preparation for practices and games, I took that away from him. And then same with Blaine Gustel. Obviously Blaine learned under Todd, and he did the same thing. So I learned from him, and then moved on to pro. And I think, in pro I had some real good coaches there as well. And I was lucky to have Derek Laxdell as a coach. He's now an assistant coach in Dallas. And then my last year in Shreveport, I had Scott Musket, more of a motivational kind of guy, but learned that side of it from him. And he was a fiery guy on the bench, and and I learned a lot from him as well. So I was lucky throughout all my playing career. I had unreal coaches, and I learned a lot from all of them.
Do you find yourself kind of, when you're watching, say, the NHL, do you find yourself watching certain coaches and kind of the strategies that they implement in the game? Do you find yourself always kind of watch that and kind of learn from what they're doing, what you like, and how to improve your overall coaching facet?
Absolutely. My wife probably gets sick of me watching hockey games on TV, but I learned so much from them. What they're doing on the power play breakouts, or what they're doing in zone. How are they successful on entries on that? And also on the PK, I learned, different PK forechecks, what to do in zone kind of thing. I really watch the special teams when I'm watching NHL games, just to see what they're doing right on their breakouts and in zone stuff. And, I love going to watch. Obviously, this year was tough. I like going to watch junior hockey as well, learning from different coaches. That's the only way you get better, is if you're, out there wanting to, go out and watch other coaches, how their systems and what they do, watch their practices. That's the way you get better. And I want to get better. I'm still learning every day, and that's maybe why I watch so much hockey.
All right, Travis. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was great having you, learning about your playing days and your coaching styles and such. And I wish the team the best, and hopefully a better crack at the season next year.
Yeah, let's hope that we can all get back to some normalcy, I guess, and get back to playing the game that we love. And thank you for having me. Enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, you betcha. I'll definitely pay close attention to the guys next season, and best of luck. Stay safe.
Yes, you too. Stay safe, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. That was Travis Clayton with the Sherwood Park Kings head coach of the U18 AAA in the Alberta Elite Hockey League. After the break, we will have JD joining for commitments and talk about that across Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's edition of the AAA Show. Before I send things off to me and JD, just kind of want to bring up that we're going to be including the Canadian Sport School Hockey League in further episodes. We at Amateur Sports believe, they're not exactly titled AAA. We felt they're still owed about the same level of hockey, so we'll try and pay their dues throughout the rest of our episodes. And we'll talk about commitments from Alberta and Saskatchewan, and just a pair out of Manitoba to talk about this week, and also a bit of alumni highlights throughout this past week. So with that, we'll send to JD. JD, welcome back to this week's edition. Thanks for joining me again. How are things going with you?
Going pretty good. It's one of my favorite parts of the week, besides my own show, obviously, is coming on here and talking about some prospects making their way into the junior leagues, which, is always exciting for them and for us to talk about.
Yeah, it's nice to have some new news to talk about and amongst these ranks of hockey. Obviously, as everyone knows, we haven't seen much action out of them since, for most provinces, December. So great to see some movement here. I guess we'll just fire things off. We're getting defensive this week in the Alberta Elite Hockey League. A lot of D-men moving on to junior level. Graham Hampton and St. Albert Raiders is going to Spruce Grove Saints. Sean Jacobs, D-man for Southside Athletic Club. He's one of the Fernie Ghost Riders of the Kootenay International Hockey League. Caden Cabana for the Lloydminster Bobcats, going to the Spruce Grove Saints. And Edison Weeks, another Lloyd player, going to Weyburn. And another Lloyd player moving on. He's going to Bonnyville, Cameron Emig. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that last name. I apologize to him and his family how bad I might have butchered that. Justin Merrick, a goaltender of the Calgary Athletic Club, U18 AAA. He's on the Sherwood Park Crusaders. Nolan Henderson, D-man of the Calgary U18 AAA Flames, going to the Lloydminster Bobcats. I wasn't able to do the research, but I wonder if that was any relation to the Henderson that committed last week from the Flames. And Sebastian Panku, another D-man for the Calgary Flames, going to the Notre Dame Hounds. So first off, JD, any players jumping out to you on this week's list?
Well, my player that I'm going to pinpoint today is Caden Cabana. He's a Lloyd boy. He's going to or he plays in Lloydminster for the Bobcats there, and he's going to Spruce Grove. So it looks like Spruce Grove's picking up some more depth for, once the AJHL season comes or starts, I guess, this Friday we were talking about. So that's exciting. Hopefully they'll be able to get some playing time. They're in 03, so they're 18. So they gotta, get their feet wet in the AJHL, which is going to be good. His numbers were, he only got to play 4 games. He put up 3 points, goal and 2 assists. He did play 1 game for Spruce Grove last year, but last year he put up 42 points. He had 11 points. He had 5 goals, 6 assists, and 11 points. So, maybe not the season he wanted, but he could definitely add some depth to a Spruce Grove team that possibly needs it. I know a lot of these AJHL teams with their season not kind of going the way that they wanted to when they started it, might have lost some players to the NCAA, or maybe they went and played hockey down in the States, like we've talked about many times. So I feel like a lot of these, every week that we've done this show, the AEHL has they got 6 or 7 guys committing, which is good. And I imagine teams are probably needing that added depth, guys to play on that third line, kill penalties, just get some experience in the league so they can come back next year, at least with some games underneath their belt. He only got 1 in with the Saints last year, and so hopefully he'll be able to get in, a few more than that when the season starts this Friday.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, a lot of these teams adding depth. Another thing I noticed on here, and I believe last week we had a couple commits too, is the Lloyd Bobcats are still being active despite yet to be allowed to play in the league for this season. So it's nice to see some players willing to take a chance in that organization, and even though they won't be able to play this year, looking ahead to next season. So it's interesting to see how many players have committed to Lloyd over the past couple of weeks, and there's Nolan again adding to the future roster of that organization. The player I'm going to pinpoint this week is Edison Weeks. Edison played last year with the IHA Midget Prep, the Canadian Sport Hockey League. He had a pretty good year, 26 points in 36 games. And then he came home to Lloyd. Well, not home, I guess. Home is Wainwright, Alberta for him, but close enough, I guess. And he went to Lloyd this year, only got 3 games in, 2 points in 3 games. He's 5'11", decent size, so he'll fit into that mold that these guys are looking for. He's going to Weyburn in the SJ. Weyburn's been good at cranking out those small, talented players. So, Edison may not necessarily be considered small, 5'11", but definitely should be able to produce well for that team.
And it's exciting hockey. Even though the SJ isn't playing, it's nice to see guys getting committing to those teams, hopefully for next year. Or if the SJHL, I know I was reading an article last week that that the president of the SJHL they're getting each team to put in, they're thinking about doing 3 hub cities. They're kind of trying to follow suit with the AAHL and the rest of that are doing the hub city thing, and they're trying to at least get a somewhat of a season done. They've made proposals to the Saskatchewan government. I guess it's just a waiting game now to see if it's approved, but they are asking, if everything does go ahead, they're asking each team for a certain amount of money. I can't remember how much reading that article. It was a very good article, talking about how, the financial hardship that all these teams are facing. And even with that $1 million that's shared between all the teams in the SJHL, I think there's 10 teams. So that's about $100,000 per team. There's, in the article, they said that those teams need to spend that money wisely or save it because they're not going to start making any money. If they have a whole full season next year, that's all just going to be trying to make it up for what they lost last year and this year. So they need to keep that money in a reserve. These are all just, thoughts on what they should do with the money. Obviously, it's up to the team what they want to do with it, but it's going to take a couple of years for a lot of these teams to get back on their feet if we have a full SJHL season next year, as well as the year after everything goes ahead too, and they can start kind of, making some money, because they make money off the fans and sponsorship and all that kind of stuff, and advertising that people pay them to put their logo on center ice, or, on the boards, or on the back of their jerseys, or whatever. Maybe they'll think about doing some promotions on the jerseys themselves, and like the NHL's doing. Not as much as European leagues where it's their whole body's covered in sponsors, but maybe on the helmet and maybe a crest on the jersey or something like that. I know most of these teams are sponsored in the SJHL. They do have a main sponsor usually on their jersey somewhere, but it's just, like I said, it's nice to see these SJ teams, picking up some players that they feel are going to be valuable to them in the future.
Yeah, and I know growing up around the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, you mentioned the advertisements on the jerseys and uniforms and that, and I think that's something that's been part of the league for a while now. I think I can remember dating back to being around the Stamps in Swan Valley there, that they had multiple companies on the uniforms, and I believe the SJ and MJ still kind of do that. I'm not sure on the prevalence of that in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. One thing to know about the SJHL, I wonder if they're going to be kind of looking at to see, you mentioned the Alberta Junior Hockey League and how they're going to handle their season, right? They split into 5 cohorts and are just going to be kind of playing in their three team bubble per se. So they're not doing a bubble format bubble format. I think they're still doing home arenas, but I think there'll be something to watch for, and maybe how the SJ can maybe tweak those formats. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to make a little bit on the Fernie Ghost Riders in the KIJHL. The Kootenay International Junior Hockey League. It's a junior B league out in BC, and they got 4 divisions. Living in BC and in Kamloops and whatnot, it's a great junior B league for players to get that year that they need to up their game to get to junior A or the WHL. And I know, this Kamloops Storm, that's our junior B team, that's part of that league, is, there's been some good talent that's gone through there, that's gone on to bigger and better things. So I just wanted to give some love to the KIJHL, and hopefully Sean Jacobs has the same experience that a lot of other players have had playing in that league. It's competitive hockey. It's junior B hockey. It's hard hitting. It's there's hatred between teams, especially in that division where it all started in the Fernie, Kimberley area, where there's Nelson and there's I think 5 teams in that Kootenay area where everything began, but I hope it's a good experience for him, and then he gets the development that he needs if that's why he's choosing to go there, or Fernie just saw something in him to grab him. Maybe no one else did. I'm not sure, but hopefully he has a good experience.
Yeah, and that's what you mentioned in that league. It's pretty competitive, and I remember growing up because I think this league is considered Junior B, if I'm not mistaken. And I grew up in an area where Junior B is the league at the time wasn't really strong, and it's kind of joked about a lot amongst many. And I think I was in what was midget at the time. I got the chance to go to a Fernie Junior B camp, and I was kind of blown away by the talent amongst the team and in that league, and I didn't quite think it'd be as competitive as it was, just from what I had seen around Junior B teams around home. And yeah, from the sounds of it, that town loves their Ghost Riders, and that league has got some pretty good support for a Junior B league. So I'm sure there'll be that in factor when Sean was making his decision.
Yeah, and it's an exciting league to play in too, because you get to travel all around the interior and the Kootenays of BC. So nothing wrong with that. And like you said, all the towns that have Junior B teams in that league, they go nuts for their teams. There's a lot of support. The barn's full, on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday night when there's a Ghost Riders game or a Storm game or a Chase Heat game or whatever it is. They're going. The stands are full.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good opportunity to quickly go to a word from our sponsors before we transition into the Saskatchewan League. We'll be right back after a quick word.
Hi, I'm JD Houghton, host of the Sask Sports Show. Catch it every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for all things Saskatchewan sports.
Welcome back. Go on here. Crap. Welcome back to this week's edition of the AAA Show as we transition here into Saskatchewan. We just wrapped up the Alberta Elite Hockey League. Another busy week in commitments out of there. Transitioning into Saskatchewan, not quite as busy, but we got a pair of players to talk about. Forward Dawson Brace, the Tisdale Trojans. He's taking his efforts to nip a win in the AJHL next year. Well, James Vene, a goaltender for the Saskatoon Blazers, will get the chance to represent the Medicine Hat Tigers. I believe correctly. JD did a little research on the guy, went undrafted, so glad to see him getting WHL opportunity.
Well, he got drafted in the SJHL draft to the Estevan Bruins, but he went undrafted in the WHL draft, so it was nice. The reason why I picked him is because when I saw the signing, I was very intrigued that he signed with the team, because of the fact is that they had a rookie goaltender going to starting their first 4 games, and backing up Garen Bjorklund. That's the starting goaltender of Medicine Hat. And I was just wondering, curious. And actually, the backup that started, or the backup that they had going into the season was Beckett Langkow, and so I don't know if he was just on loan or maybe because he's from Alberta, so maybe he got a chance to go play in go to his AJHL team, and then obviously they needed a goaltender, so they picked up their draft pick, James Vene, and plays for the Saskatoon Blazers in the Saskatchewan male U18 AAA Hockey League. And he actually put up really, he only got to play, I think he had 2 starts last year, put up 150 save percentage. And he went 2-0 in his starts with a .949 .949 save percentage. So he definitely had a good start to the year. And then last year he played 18 games, went 7-7, .910 save percentage, .339 goals against average. And then the year in his last year at Bantam, he put up an .880, 10-7 with a .330, 3.33 goals against average. So you can see that there's been some progression and some development in his game. Obviously, he only played 2 games, so it's kind of a hard thing to go off of. But to start the season that strong, going 2-0, I'm pretty sure he was sharing the net with their more veteran goaltender, which I think he's an 18-year-old if I'm correct. And he was the starter. And I think the Blazers got in 5 games, 5 or 6 games they got in. So obviously he got to start a couple, and he did pretty well. So I feel that the Medicine Hat Tigers saw that in him, and they're going to give, when Guerin needs a night off, they can put James in and get him some WHL time. There's, it's all it is just development and building the kids' confidence to play in the WHL at a regular level.
Well, another thing about the WHL is one thing you can never have too much of is goaltending, right? You never be too deep at goaltending. For the longest time, there's a lot of teams that struggle to find their number one. So just to get James in 04, so he's still young, and even if I'm not sure if he's going to get into the bubble this year. I don't know how the regulations are around importing guys in once the season's gone on their way, but even if he doesn't get in until next year, if he plays decent, maybe he can force a trade out with him or another goalie, right? There's value for the Tigers to take a chance on him. Looking at Dawson Bruce. Sorry, you have one more thing to say about him?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say in the article that I read, they said that he was going to self-isolate for 2 weeks and then join the club.
Awesome. That answers that question for me. So yeah, he might get in some action this year, and hopefully we see maybe one game out of him, just to kind of get his feet wet. It'd be tough to sit in that bubble for so long and not see some game action. So it kind of seems like Medicine Hat is kind of feeling out what they got possibly, and see how they want to roll next season. Transitioning now to Dawson Brace, forward for Tisdale Trojans. Dawson finished last year, his first year at AAA, 10 points in 30 games. Not bad for the transition. He had previously played U18 AA with the Prairie Storm in White City. Unfortunately, this year was, like many, cut short with 3 games, but the 5'9" forward will get an opportunity to go to the Nipawin Hawks, which has always been a good organization, pumping out a strong roster. So glad to see another 03 who maybe has gone a little unnoticed over the years kind of get a chance despite only getting a couple games in this season.
And just to add on that Prairie Storm program that they have down there in White City, I remember watching their Bantam, I guess you want to call it Tier 1 team that came to Kamloops for the Kamloops International Bantam Ice Hockey Tournament a few years back. Whoa, are they ever fast? And that, whatever they're doing in that program, I actually had to go search them because I didn't know where they were from. And the what they're doing down there, and the coaching staff, and for all their divisions that they do have, a great job pumping out really good players and getting them to go on to play, a U18 AAA team, or going on to play in the SJHL. And they got some, they got the technology there now too, so that they can, the parents sit up in the stands and they record each face-off, each shot, everything, and go straight to the bench on an iPad, and they can up to the second changes that they can make on the bench. Just with having that technology is a big help too. So kudos to the parents that do that for the betterment of the team and the coaching staff. And it's just a really good program.
Yeah, that's a program I've kind of just kept an eye on over the years. I remember back in my minor hockey days playing Pee Wee, and I remember this is when I was still living in Manitoba. We were at a tournament in Portage la Prairie, and and the Storm made an appearance in that tournament. I'm not sure if this was part of their whole program or how it all worked back then, but I remember them coming in, and they had a couple parents on the camera, and we'd never seen that really before, just playing the Tier 1 or whatever you want to call it hockey in Pee Wee. And yeah, they were quick, fast. You could tell they were put a lot of work into that organization, and you look at the players that they've pumped out over the years, definitely isn't going unnoticed.
No, and whatever they're doing there, they should keep doing that, because they're on the right track for success. And I know that a couple of their players I know are on the Yorkton Seacon Maulers roster. They got a couple, I think one or two of them. I think Pinnell, he's a defenseman. He was playing on that Bantam team that I saw live. So, just great to see.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to see these organizations making a name for themselves. It's just on the outskirts of Regina, so you could classify it as a non-big city organization. So good to see that. A new addition to the segment this week is the Canadian Sport School Hockey League. While they aren't necessarily called AAA, they play at the same level and can be argued just as good of organizations. Pair of commitments coming out of there this week. Jari Kaikkonen, the goaltender for the Yale Hockey Academy, going to the Drayton Valley Thunder, and Sebastian Hamming, a defenseman for the St. George School. I believe that's out of Edmonton, going to the Cowichan Valley Capitals. JD, who do you want to take?
I'll take Jari Kaikkonen. I really hope I pronounced that last name, everyone. I apologize to Jari and his family if I did not. But you know what? I'll just go into his stats from last year. He actually is from Alberta originally. Played his, I think he played his AA in Lloydminster. Yeah, he played his U16 AAA season in Lloydminster. Put up a .920 save percentage, a .248 goals against average, 8-6 records, so not bad. Had 2 playoff games, two goals a game, or 2.02 goals against average, .935 save percentage, and then his U15 AAA year, he had a 12-3 record, .916 save percentage, but he only got in 3 games this year with the once he went down to the Lower Mainland there to play at the Yale Hockey Academy. He put up 292 goals against average, 842 in 3 games with a 1-0-1 record. So I imagine that he might have got pulled one of those games. Didn't pop up on his record. So, it like I said, it's hard because these kids haven't been able to play a full season to really get, in their league that they are when it stopped, to really get a feel for what kind of player they're going to be, and what who they are and whatnot. So it's kind of tough to really make an assumption, but he was drafted in the 6th round, 115th overall by the Kelowna Rockets. And I imagine that in the next few years, he'll be suiting up in Kelowna for the Rockets. They'll get him into some training camp, get his feet wet with some exhibition games. Hopefully, he might even see him in the bubble. We're not 100% sure yet, but he's committed to go play hockey this year for Drayton Valley in the AJHL. So good luck to him.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kelowna, and they're not quite the powerhouse they've been, as we've seen over the last 20 years. So maybe there might be some opportunity, like you said, for him to get in the bubble and just kind of see what he's got and see how they feel, and maybe bring him back next year or let him get a little more action in Drayton Valley. Sebastian Hamming, I guess that's who I'm left with. 5'9" D-man. He's kind of been a journeyman in his minor hockey league career. In 16-17 U15, played AA for the Regina Pat Blues before transitioning to the Southside Athletic Club, U15 AAA, where he wore the A, 29 points in 36 games. Went undrafted after his U15 season. He played for St. George School Elite 15s, the CSSHL U16, 22 points in 35 games. and then he stayed in St. George for the next couple of years, playing for the U18 club, 17 points in 33 games, and 1 point in 4 games this year, and 5'9" as an 18-year-old. I wonder if maybe that played a factor into the draft process, as teams can be sometimes scared off that height in a young kid, worried that he might not be able to grow, and it's so hard predicting bantam age or U15 age players, so undeveloped yet developed, and it's good to see him getting a chance going to the BCHL, which I'm sure his prep school background, this will just pave a way to an NCAA career for him at the very worst.
Yeah, and if he's going to Cowichan and playing the BCHL, there's a good chance that that's kind of the route that he wants to take, which a lot of junior A hockey players take. That's the route that usually the junior A offers, is that NCAA college hockey route.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. That's not the end of the line to get to college and see what can happen, make some noise there. New segment that we're going to add on this week, just because, not as many commitments across the CSSHL and the Manitoba Hockey League. There's actually just a pair of signings that came out of the Manitoba Hockey League. Let me just bring that up here. As we were at commercial break, I found it on Twitter, so just bear with me for a sec.
That's a good segment on the alumni news. It's they got some big names in there and some exciting stuff.
The Verdun Oil Capitals announced today they're proud to announce that forwards Rylan Cusack from Winnipeg and Mitchell Coyler from Onondaga both signed their letters of intent. Cusack played 3 seasons with the Manitoba AAA League, the Winnipeg Thrashers, and Collier was a U18 AAA Yellowhead Chief, where he had 38 points in 48 games. He started the season with the Rink Hockey Academy in Winnipeg and had 2 goals and an assist in 3 games before things got shut down. So both 03 born players. Collier looked like he was slowly working his way up the competitiveness of obviously the Manitoba AAA Hockey League, and then getting into the Canadian Sports School. Really developing, looked like, and good to see him getting an opportunity with the MJHL next season. So back to the alumni news that we're going to kind of pluck a player from the 4 leagues that we kind of went over, and I'm sure we could spend the whole episode on this segment, but kind of trying to pick one, and it might not always be the all-star that we point out, but everyone deserves a recognition. And Braden Schneider, former D-man for the Prince Albert Mintos, now with Brandon, having himself a heck of a career there, and kind of became a nationwide name, helping Canada to a silver medal this year at the World Juniors. He signed his entry-level deal with the New York Rangers. And Brennan Moore, forward for the Duke Oil Kings, he committed to the Sunny Canton Hockey Academy, NCAA Division III. College hockey, extending his playing career, can't go wrong there. Dylan Gunther, forward for the Northern Alberta Extreme. He's now with the Edmonton Oil Kings, starting the season hot. And Mike Sevenson, former Eastman Select of the Manitoba U18 AAA Hockey League, gets his opportunity to sign the WHL with the Prince George Cougars. So let's just start her off with Braden Schneider.
He's one heck of a hockey player. I have to say, watching him at the World Juniors, and just seeing what he can do with the puck, and being a D-man that can put points up on the board for you. It's something special, and in New York, and the Rangers obviously saw that, and they want to lock him down for a 3-year entry-level deal. So congratulations to him. He will be back in Brandon in the bubble in Regina to play his last season in the AAHL before he moves up and joins his teammates from the World Juniors like Dylan Cousins and Kalen Addison and Ty Smith's up there, and Alexi Lafreniere. I'm pretty sure Braden Schneider played on the same team that Lafreniere played on. I'm not 100% sure about that. 2 years ago.
I don't believe Schneider was on the team last year, if I am correct.
Excuse me then, but that's nevertheless, when you sign an entry-level deal with an NHL hockey club, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get to go places, and like I said, with the guys that he's played with in the AAHL and from the World Juniors that are already in the NHL, it's going to be exciting stuff for him.
Yeah, and he's putting together quite the resume, like you said. He can put the puck in the net and move the puck up the ice, and he also's got that physical game that TSN that all raved about coming into the World Juniors, so he can be that guy that can lay the body. And he got a couple games in with Hartford, the New York Rangers farm team this season, so he's come into the bubble with a bit of action under his belt and probably a lot more practices. But his hard work's paid off. He went 19th overall in the draft this past summer, so good for him, and excited to see what he can bring in the bubble and at the next level in the coming years. Going to Brennan Moore, don't be confused with the former Brendan Morrow that played a lengthy NHL career at the Dallas Stars, but swapped the E out for the A, and you got this Brendan Moore who played with the Leduc Oil Kings, committed to Sunny Canton Hockey Academy. Like we've talked about so much in the past episodes, just getting to that college level, no matter if it's D3, D2, D1, you're extending your playing career. You're not locked in at that D3 level for your entire career. I believe you can still move up if you wish. So, he's kind of a journeyman in the Alberta Junior Hockey League the past several seasons. He bounced around from Bonnyville to Calgary and what would have been Lloyd this season. Unfortunate he won't be able to see action there. I'm not sure if there'll be a possibility of him being picked up somewhere else, or if I've maybe missed that in the news. But it's good to see guys who maybe don't get as many games in still getting noticed south of the border.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. You get to further your education, you get to further your hockey career, you get to play college hockey. Like you said, doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, or 3. You're playing NCAA hockey. That's, I think I remember growing up and watching it. That's what I wanted to do. I remember when I kept the stats of all my games, and I would email. For some reason, I always just wanted to go to Minnesota. I didn't really care for the teams out east, but I wanted to go to Minnesota and play it. I sent all my information to St. Cloud State and the University of Minnesota and North Dakota and all those teams in the Midwest that are just powerhouses when it comes in to NCAA Division I hockey. I didn't get no responses, but hey, there's still time.
Yeah.
So good for him. It's exciting stuff. He, like you said, he has the opportunity to go on to a Division I or a Division II hockey, play Division II hockey, go on to a different university, and then hope, if that's his plan, or if he just wants to get an education and do whatever, then that's an option too. But good for him. I'm excited.
Well, another thing is you're essentially just adding to the hockey resume, right? And whether he plays 1 year, 2 years in Division III here, and he says I'm done, it's another level of hockey on the resume that maybe he wants to do coaching down the line. Maybe he can add that to the resume when applying for jobs around North America, right? Hey, I played in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. I played in the Alberta Elite Hockey League. I played Division NCAA hockey, right? It's another coach to learn from, another team to add to the resume. Moving on to Dylan Gunther. I'm sure this is a guy that you're fired up to talk about. Watching a lot of WHL the past couple weekends, and this guy is making a case to be the number 1 pick in this year's NHL entry draft. 6 goals, 4 assists in 4 games, and he just looked like he's on a whole nother level out there.
Yeah, and him and Jake Neighbors are back together on the same line again, and that team, like we talked about before, could go 24-0 in that Central Division, because and especially on the power play, they are like deadly on the power play, and I'm pretty sure probably 3 of his goals have been on the power play. So they all the pieces are right. Having Dylan Gunther come back and play in Edmonton, and then you got a solid team. That's just a solid team. You got Sebastian Cossa in net. You got Matt Robinson on D. He can score points. He can shut down their top line. Another guy on Dylan Gunther. He is one heck of a hockey player, and being able to play for the Northern Alberta Extreme, I would imagine they're out of Edmonton, and getting that opportunity to play in the CSSHL and then going and playing, for his hometown Edmonton Oil Kings is great to see. But another guy to watch out on that team is that Kate Oliver. He's putting up some points too. Maybe not as many as Gunther is. I think he has 6 or 7 points, so he's up there in the standings with in the point department, and he's another guy to watch out too. And I'm pretty sure they're all on the same power play line. Kate Oliver, Dylan Gunther, Jake Neighbors, they're on fire, and they can't be stopped. I'm sorry.
Well, like we talked about on your WHL preview show last week, there isn't a team in the Central Division that was able to bring back the talent that Edmonton has and the chemistry that Edmonton has and a chemistry amongst that top talent. And these teams are showing that it's quite hard to adjust to. And this could be exactly what Dylan Gunther wanted to happen with the hockey coming back, because it's boosting his resume and giving him a case to be the first name called. And I believe the draft is still a go for July. They're not going to bump it back despite the season going later again next year. Transitioning now to our last alumni news, Mike Sevenson, former Eastman Select, signing with Prince George. Mike was a 5th-round pick of the organization. He put up some pretty decent numbers in the Manitoba League, 26 points in 47 games in a rookie year, coming off a U15 season where he probably learned a lot at the Rink Hockey Academy in Winnipeg there. He had 28 points in 30 games in his draft year. His second season in the Manitoba League, he had 54 points in 47 games, so showing that extra step. Was able to get 1 game in with the OCM Blizzards. And then this year there was no AAA for him. He was right to the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, 6 points in 8 games. And that must have made Prince George kind of turn an eye, because anytime you see your prospect be able to adjust that nicely to the Manitoba Junior League, it goes a long ways.
Yeah, and you're going to a team that got the 2nd overall pick in the WHL Bantam draft this past season in Riley Height. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Is it Height?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
And they're a team too that, Prince George is they've never had that high caliber team, in my existence of being around watching the WHL and whatnot, but they are a team that they grind, and they got a backstopper in Taylor Gauthier that on some nights is the only reason why the score was only 2-1. That guy, I've never seen a goaltender so athletic, and he battles on every play, and he never gives up. So to have that, and then have this, Mike Svensson come along, and he put up 54 points last season, that's good to see, and put up 8 points, you said, to start the season this year.
Hold on here, I got to bring her back up. 6 points in 8 games.
6 points in 8 games. So that's, I feel that he's going to add a lot to the Prince George Cougars. If he can get some games in and get his first WHL goal underneath his belt, because I know that's always a tough one for players to get, that first goal, get that monkey off their back, and they can just keep going. But Prince George is, they've always had a team that flies under the radar. Some years they have a just sub 500 year, and they can come out and win 7 games back, together, and they're in the playoffs. And I know that the Kamloops Blazers, where I'm from, have always had a tough time going to Prince George. And Prince George is a hard place to play in because you always have to play 2 games back to back in Prince George because it's out in the middle of northern BC. And same when you go over to Victoria, you always have to play 2 games over in Victoria. And it's always a hard place to win 2 games out of. So, get him. It's exciting for him that he signed with a AAHL team. He gets to go up to Prince George. Nice country up there. And, I guess if he's going to go to the bubble, he's going to go to Kamloops, but still, nice place to go.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with getting the WHL experience. He's obviously shown that he can take the step year after year. He's doing all the right things to improve his game. Going to the prep league to maybe fine tune some things in his draft year, and then transitioning into his zone for the Manitoba AAA League. Go to Prince George, where he should get an opportunity. They've always been kind of in that regrouping phase the past couple of years. Be interesting to see what, I believe Mark Lamb is still the GM there, what he's shaped the team up to be for this season. It being a developmental year for most teams, I would imagine they're going to want to get Mike a chance to prove all he's got so they can have a good idea what he can bring to the table if they're going to want to stick with him for next season. But so that'll wrap this week's edition of the AAA Show Up. JD, thanks for joining me again. Love talking commitments and news around the league with you. It might sometimes just be our own personal opinion. Right now, all you can really go off of is stats and all that kind of stuff. There's no in-game action to really talk about. The alumni news is about as current of hockey we can really talk about. So thanks for making the most of it, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That was JD of the Sask Sports Show. You can catch his shows on Thursday. I apologize if I missed any commitments. Kind of riffling through all the Twitter and Facebook pages. It's not always the easiest trying to track down who's signing where, because some teams don't necessarily report it as quick as others. But if you have any news along the leagues, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Jared Down, or give me an email at jared@amateursports.tv if you have any insight on signings or any news from your respective AAA teams that you want to broadcast on the air. So with that, thanks for watching this week's episode, and I'll see you all next week.